Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I need to tell my fellow competitive Marvel Rivals players that no, the matchmaking is not the reason that you are hard stuck in the rank you're currently in. Instead, there are things you can do to improve and get better and rise up quickly, but blaming it on outside forces is always going to leave you hard stuck at the end of the day because you're not making the improvements necessary in order to rank up. And I say this for several reasons. I've seen it go fairly viral that people are talking about, oh, if you jump into quick play and then lose some matches and then you jump into ranked, you're going to win. That is absolutely ludicrous. The game will naturally have you going on win streaks and loss streaks. It'll have you win some, lose some. That is just the way the game is always going to be at a certain level. Once you are more skilled, you are going to win more than you lose. And if matchmaking was this big of an issue, the better players wouldn't have shot up into the higher ranks, Celestial, Eternity, and all that as quickly as they did. And blaming everything outside of what you can do is a major problem. Now, there was a video from Siegel many years ago when Overwatch 1 was very new, and he talks about how essentially players were blaming matchmaking and saying that, okay, this is the reason I'm hard stuck. This is why I can't progress. It's because the game essentially wants me to win some, wants me to lose some, so I go back and forth and I'm never going to climb. The problem with that is you have a player in Marvel Rivals, for example, like Shroud, who didn't lose a single game until he got to Diamond or something crazy like that while he was doing his ranked climb. Yes, he's the exception. He's the top 0.01%, but that just shows the fact that the matchmaking can only affect things so much. So another point that I saw is like Flats from Overwatch and Marvel Rivals as well. He talked about how if you have two teams, right? You have 6v6. You are taking up one slot on that team. That means there's 5 other chances on your team to get good or bad players, but on the opposite team, there's 6 chances to get bad players. So the likelihood is that as you're climbing, if you're a good player, you are going to be on the higher end team more often than not. If that's not true, then you might need to look at what you can do better. That doesn't mean just get better at the game, get good, as some would say. There's a lot of factors there that can help you improve. Whether it is learning different characters for the rank you're in, maybe you were able to climb from bronze and silver really quickly with Scarlet Witch or Penny Parker, but now you are in platinum and that's no longer working, and so you need to adjust from there. Maybe you are constantly flaming your teammates and then ruining the game because now the game has only been on for a minute and you're flaming them already, and the whole team morale dissipates. Everyone swaps to different characters and it becomes a disaster. There's a lot of things that you can do better, you can control, that will help you climb much easier rather than blaming matchmaking, blaming your teammates, saying that your opponents are always going to be better than your teammates, because that's just strictly not the case. You can go through, and I would highly advise everybody to do this, go through your match history. Look at how many times you got MVP, you got SVP, versus how many times you might have struggled and somebody else carried you or was doing the bulk of the work. You can also look at your previous matches for individual moments that changed the course of the game. Say the matches in overtime, a team is trying to capture a point and you don't use your ultimate, the team captures it, and then they start moving the cart all the way down because your team's unable to get back set up and you start staggering quite a bit. That is those little micro moments that can be the difference between winning and losing oftentimes. And so because of that, I think players don't consider a lot of that. They'll look at their stats and say, I'm doing pretty well. But the moment to moment battles that are happening, they might lose, and so it sets their team up in a bad position. They're the first one to die all the time. They're out of position and unable to help their team. They are not creating space as a vanguard. There's a lot of that you can learn to do pretty easily as long as you are willing to adjust based on what your team needs. And so I think this is where Players will always have an ego, which makes sense, but unless you're in one above all right now, there's going to be somebody in the game better than you. And so knowing that, that's where you have to see, how can I improve, how can I get better, and how can I learn from all of that. If you're not playing competitive, this doesn't apply to you. I know there's a lot of people who like to jump in on videos like this and be like, well, I just play for an hour or two a day. You reasonably have to understand that you're not going to climb all that fast if you're only playing for a couple hours a week in comparison to the people that play a lot more. That's just the way life is. But if you're very good, if you practice, you put in some time, you really want to get better, you can probably climb faster than some people that are putting in a lot of time, but not necessarily learning from their mistakes and trying to improve. So that's something that I think people should also keep in mind. But yeah, this is a conversation that I've seen going on everywhere. People claim that the matchmaking is rigged, and if that was the case, why are people in Grandmaster and Celestial and Eternity Room right now? How are they able to climb and you not? Now, there are factors. If you are duo or trio queuing with other good players, again, that reduces the amount of potentially not good players that you can run into. Plus, if you have 2 to 3 players, you can cover multiple parts of the team composition. You can cover multiple roles, and that will allow you to climb faster. Even if you and your teammate might be not as skilled as a Grandmaster player, duo or trio queuing will probably allow you to climb that much faster than you would solo because of all of the advantages. Now, you got to keep in mind, you and your teammate should roughly be about the same level. Otherwise, it can get very frustrating. And also, you can carry your teammates to a degree, but then once they get to the level that you are at, say you carry them to Diamond or Grandmaster, now they're going to be in over their heads, and it's going to be very difficult to play with them and not lose a bunch of games. And so there's a lot of that to keep in mind, a lot of factors here, but it's just something I've seen talked about so much the last few days, and it kind of irked me because I just wish players would take a little bit more accountability, have a little bit more self-reflection in order to improve themselves and allow them to climb that much faster, because I promise you it'll be much easier. If you missed it also, there are some changes to ranked coming, so you are going to be reset 4 essentially spots. So if you're for example, a gold 1, you're going to drop down all the way to silver and so forth and so on. So very important that you pay attention to that, which is dropping on February 21st, when we also get Thing and Human Torch as well. So that's very exciting news. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Are you still convinced that you're not to blame when you are climbing? Do you think the matchmaking is rigged? I'd love to hear from other people who see things a little bit differently than I do, because I don't feel like that they could rig it in a way that would make a lot of sense for a lot of people. But again, curious to what you guys think. Like the video if you enjoyed, comment, subscribe. My name is Jopa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.